Hello, let's have a look at an 8mm steel ring, spring steel, male hauberk from Get Dressed for Battle. Here goes. A little while ago I made a video talking about making chainmail, something I've done a fair bit in the past. I've never got that far with it. You can see that here or here. I finally got around to buying some, and one of the first things I'll tell you is that you probably want to get a larger size than you think, even if you measure it. According to the website Get Dressed for Battle, don't know who makes it for them. You probably could find out if you really wanted to, but I don't think there'd be any benefits in trying to go straight to the supplier or anything like that with this kind of item. Perhaps I'm wrong. On their website it says for the large version it will fit a chest up to 125 centimeters, and your chest should not exceed 135 with your gambeson on. And I checked that several times, it doesn't, but there's no way I'm getting it on with a gambeson. It just wouldn't be possible. So you probably want a larger size than you think you're going to want, even according to the measurements. I'm not huge, I'm not small and skinny either, but I'm not that big. If you're big, then you probably won't get chainmail to fit you, or you'll have to try very, very hard to do so. It's supposed to be 17 kilos, and I'm not convinced, because in this box it's very heavy. I think it's more than 17, but perhaps I'm just underestimating the weight. We'll find out. Now, the first thing I learned is that you need gloves to handle it. It says on the website lightly oiled, and perhaps it is by comparison, but it's very, very oily. You can't handle it. If you handle it without gloves on, then you won't be able to pick up anything else until you've been at the sink scrubbing your hands for ages. It's filthy, greasy stuff. Of course, you want it very oily to prevent it rusting. Something I've learned about this is you have to be careful how you pick it up. If I just grab it here, corner of a sleeve, I would say there's a chance that the weight of the overall hauberk would perhaps do damage to some of the links. If you're holding it with most of the weight borne on just 4 or 5 links, I think you could be in trouble. So I want to pull the sleeves out, get hold of it. You see, it's not easy to handle. Get hold of it by more of the bulk of it, and it's still not an easy thing to do. Now, let's check the scales on. It's not okay. It's accounted for the weight of the bucket. Here goes. Well, that's 14.6, and I'm stunned. It's lighter than it's supposed to be. Didn't expect to find that. Let me add the quiff, the headpiece. Don't think that would be much more than a couple of kilos. Okay, that gives us 18 kilos. Wow. I'm surprised that this is 3.5 when the whole hauberk is only 18. I'm so surprised. Sorry, it's only 14.5. I'm so surprised by that. I'm going to go and get a weight to check that the scale itself isn't too far off. And I'll speed this up while I'm doing so. Here we have a 5 kilo Body Max Olympic plate. Body Max are hardly the gold standard, but I think it should be accurate to within half a kilo. Right, that's zeroed. 4.9 kilos. So I'm wrong. It weighs less than the advertised weight of 17 kilos, and it's still very, very hard to handle. It's very cumbersome. Just going to change the setup for a minute here. I've laid this out on a saw bench and hopefully it will allow me to get it on. I've had this for a couple of months now, been pretty busy, so I've only worn it once and I was surprised. I have had chainmail on before, many years ago, at a convention of some kind, and it was just a, I may say this incorrectly, hauberk. I see people online saying hauberk, but I can't help imagine there was a slightly different sound to the French word, assuming it's a French word. This is a hauberk, much longer, and I might get a hauberk soon in a larger size because it's a pain. It really is. Now, one thing I mentioned, just getting onto this bench, it fell onto the ground a bit. Difficult stuff to handle, and it's abraded a little bit and scuffed. And people might say, well, it's supposed to be armour, should be tougher than that. People get the wrong idea sometimes, especially with something like chainmail. You think that you put it on and that's it. You're hardly invulnerable, but you're pretty tough and you can go out there and be hit by a sword, but you're not. You would still be doing all you can to parry and defend yourself and move out the way and not be hit by a sword. I would say this should be considered more of a last chance, a last ditch defence. If you happen to fail with your shield, your sword, and you get hit by a blade, then it gives you a chance. A bit of a safety net, but you're definitely not wandering around thinking, I've got chainmail on, that's it. You can't touch me, because it would not be the case. As I've already mentioned, I can't get this on with my gambeson, which isn't that heavy a gambeson. I wouldn't put it on without something pretty thick. So I'm going to take the microphone off. Hopefully you'll still hear me a little, and you'll have to excuse the state of my old gardening hooded top. It's supposed to be in the low 20s today for temperature. Doesn't feel like it, and this is going to be tough work, but it's the coolest day we've got coming up, so I'd better try to do it today. And if you're on the battlefield and if you're wearing a full gambeson and chainmail, hauberk or hauberk, you're going to have a really nasty time of it. Gloves again. These gloves are very greasy and slimy already. I keep forgetting I don't have the microphone with me. You definitely want gloves to handle it. You'll probably get by with a pair of gardening gloves. You would want the leather gloves, or I think really the leather. You wouldn't want the rubber type, too slippery. The cloth type will become saturated with it. These, I've handled it with a fair bit and it's okay. They're medium quality leather gloves. Not really meant for hitting the punch bag, as you can see, but they've done that once or twice anyway. And as I say, I've done this just once and there's no guarantee it's going to work. I did it the first time last time. I got it on, there was somebody who could have helped me, but I didn't want help. You've got to see if you can do it on your own. A lot of people interested in arms and armour have an interest in role-playing games, and I've made a video talking about differences between your preconceptions in a role-playing game and real life in the past, and there's an even broader gap between fantasy and reality when it comes to chainmail armour than with a lot of other things. I remember in the rules for AD&D, going back a long way, I think it would take you 10 minutes to put armour on. That might have just been plate armour, field plate, but you certainly were expected to spend a certain amount of time putting chainmail on, and I'm the sort of person who used to think, rubbish, pick it up, you throw it on, then you fight. And it's not that easy, especially not with long mail like this. Right, this might work, it might not. Hope it does. I'll put the microphone down and we'll see what happens. the bungee really didn't help. Fortunately, I haven't got a lot of hair. If I had a full head of hair, I think perhaps half of it would be missing by now. That was bloody terrible. Maybe not as long as I thought it would be. Needs a bit of neatening up. I'll see what I can do now. Have to take the gloves off first. Let's have a look. There's still grease all over my hands, don't want to tie my hair back. Okay, we're getting there. I wanted the camera down when it was on the ground. Let's put it up a bit now. I look just like a peasant, don't I? Right. Nice and long, give you protection to just above the knee. I've seen these diagrams of them where it has a split up the front, and you can see why. Any lower than that I wouldn't be able to raise my knee much at all. Not that you're wearing chainmail for a Muay Thai combat, but still it would change mobility quite a bit. When you have it on, you can see its protection is limited. It would only help with a glancing blow if there was any kind of a thrust, and how effective it will be against slashes depends on the angle and the amount of force involved. I saw somebody talking about mail, saying that when you buy it you often have rings that aren't fully closed. I don't see any of that here. When I talked about making chainmail, I mentioned that you can close it varying degrees of perfection. You might just see there's about a millimetre gap there. I do think if you handled this without care, you could pull bits of it apart. I noticed when I put it out on the saw bench that there's little bits rusting already. I've had it for, let's say it's 3 months, it might be a little bit more, and it's been in a box covered in oil, and there's a couple of bits with rust on. Apparently if your mail gets rusty, you can put it in a bucket or a box or a sack and shake it around a lot, and the abrasion between the rings will clean it, and I'll put that to the test soon. Funny thing is, I barely touched it without these gloves on, and my hands feel disgusting. I've got no particular aversion to oil, spend a lot of time oiling swords and things like that. That's not figuratively meant. But still they're greasy and it feels horrible. Now let's try the quiff. Even though the gambeson won't fit under this, if I had any intentions of being hit by somebody, I would wear the arming cap. Anyway, now I had trouble getting this on straight before, so let me be very careful. Looking positively Norman. Where is... no, that's wrong. Oh dear. That's not the way to go about it. Here goes. That's a bit more like it. Straight out of a quest for a holy grail, no doubt. I think that's about straight at the back. Now it's interesting, when you've got 2 layers of this, you really do feel like there's a lot more protection. You can't see so many gaps between it. I don't know about the historical authenticity of it, but I've seen a photograph of mail. It was probably modern made, whether it's based on something real or not I don't know, where there were many layers of it, and it had trousers, it was quite articulate, and it covered all the body, and I suppose if you had the money you could do a lot more with it. Now this is just the right length for me. If I got the larger suit it would fit over a gambeson, but that's about it. Now it would be too long for me. This is a bit tight down here. Of course I've got a bit of a gut. It takes that perfectly well, but there's no chance. I haven't tried to put it on with the gambeson on, so the second time I've worn it. I just spent a few minutes talking about this without having a microphone anywhere near me, and that would be no good. I'll just try to backtrack a little bit. Had a bit of trouble pulling the coif on. This is too tight. I can't raise my knees very much at all. Arm movements absolutely fine. It's very greasy, although I've been wearing gloves when handling it for the most part. My hands have still got greasy. I don't feel confident that this would be that much of a protection against a sword if you're in close combat with somebody, apart from glancing blows. But when you've got it doubled over like this, it's a different matter. I have seen mail that's probably a modern construction, don't know if it's based on a historical model or not, where somebody not only has a coif like this, which doubles up parts of it, but there's other bits, other folds, other layers, including trousers, and it looked like it was pretty tough stuff. And I suppose the point is, if you had enough money back then, you could have very effective chainmail. Certainly a lot more effective than mail on its own. I was going to say close to plate, sorry, there's no such thing as plate mail. Close to plate in efficiency, but I'm not too sure about that. Maybe that's going a bit far. Now, mobility. Arms are absolutely fine, as I say. Can I clip this on somewhere? I'll put it here and hope it doesn't boom too much. Let me just get a sword. I've had this on for a few minutes. It's quite a warm day. It feels horrible. I don't like it. A bit too close to the camera to swing very much there. Let me put something up to hit. It's hot and it's unpleasant. And I should have done this beforehand. It's one of those times when nothing's going quite to plan. Let's try this. But it's a somewhat useful experience to see what it's like to wear. I've had this on less than 10 minutes. I'm uncomfortable. Imagine marching miles in it. Now in theory, I believe you wouldn't march far in it at all. You'd put it on much closer to point of combat than that. But I'm sure there were times when people had to travel, at least partly armoured. Okay. I feel it weighing down my arms. So we found out it's only actually 14 kilos. This feels hard. I wonder if it's a much neglected way of training your body physically. I feel a bit out of breath. Okay. I've done this a fair bit when reviewing swords. It's harder. It's much harder. Moving the saw bench was hard. I don't like this at all. Don't have a lot of room here. Let me shift. Not very combat realistic, but it confirms I can move the arm. It's not significantly slower, but it's harder. Everything's harder. Can still move something fairly well. I'd rather have this, of course, if I was to be sent to the battlefront than not. I don't like wearing it. I think I'm going to buy a hauberk on, so I've got something lighter I can put on should I need to. I'm glad to have got this. think it was less than £200. I think it was about 185. I'm glad I've got it, but I don't like it. Don't like it at all. It's not fun. I'm going to see if I can do a little bit more to move about in it. Just put the sword down. And reposition. And I'll leave the microphone over here. Let's just see what happens if I try and do a few press ups. Didn't make that much difference really. I did a video with a bit of a fitness challenge with press ups recently. Not that good at them. I can do 20 often, you know, with not much problem. 10 is normally nothing. Felt that a little bit more. That felt hard. That felt hard. A little worse than I thought. Of course, trying to do them with legs flat didn't work very well because there's all the weight on the torso. Getting out of breath now. A few squats. Can't squat without pulling up the length of it. The weight doesn't make much difference there, it shouldn't. I can squat well over 100 kilos without caring. But it's cumbersome. Okay, here's a final challenge. Checking the camera. Can I do a pull-up? Doubt it. Let me have a drink first. Had to have a drink and must pull on fresh gloves because the pull up with greasy gloves is going to go very badly. I don't want to touch this, even though it's misaligned for my head. I don't want to get these gloves greasy, so I won't. No chance with pronated grip. I only went to forehead height. And again, forehead height only, that's it. I did try there, it wasn't lack of effort. Now I'll just try to recompose myself. The worst bit is the quiff at the back. I won't even know till I'm editing this if it's on or not at all. You just can't tell. Right then, as for a review, I think it's good stuff, a little under £200. Of course, the riveted stuff is more expensive. Historically, I believe you would have riveted mail if you had sufficient money. Of course, if you go back to Roman times, they had pretty poor quality, flimsy metal. I think it would be brass mail rings. I'm sure a lot of people at the time of the Battle of Hastings would have had varying quality. I wouldn't at all think it would all be riveted, and some mail you get that's flat riveted is tremendously uncomfortable. I would always choose circular cross-section rings made of wire if I have any choice. There's not much to say really. Seems perfectly good to me. See, movement's limited. You're protected right down to just above your knees, but you'd only hope to catch a blade in passing. Otherwise, there's only so much it will do for you. You can look at this and you can see the point goes straight through a ring without any trouble, and then it will split that ring when force is applied. I've got another long sword that's even thinner at the end. It would just go straight through it. I think that one would begin to penetrate flesh without forcing the rings apart. I don't think you could just do that and get in, but if you take your weight back and you thrust, you're going right through it. With a slash, different matter. You probably blunt the blade, not that you care when you're just trying to survive. My estimation is it would be quite effective. I do want to do some tests. I've got some rings. I want to make up a few squares of mail and do some good tests, and also compare it to some of the mail I've made with square section spring washers that I think will be tougher. I really can't overemphasize how horrible this is. Nothing nice about it. Imagine if you've got to stand for 4 hours outside the gate of a castle or something on guard. That's enough to be terrible. You probably wouldn't. This is probably why they didn't have armoured people in those circumstances a lot of the time. Of course, in a medieval situation, you could easily be in a position where the alternatives to standing outside the gate guarding the castle for a long time are far worse, and that would be, by comparison, a privileged lifestyle. Hope I don't lose the microphone. Let's just try a few moves at the bag. Okay, jab's fast enough. Slipping because of the gloves. No, that wasn't fast. Interesting. Didn't quite lose the microphone. Can still do a front kick. Pull it back with some speed. Let's just try again. And just for fun, let's try the side. The mail will catch me. Not as bad as I thought. Well, that's it really. Previously I made a video on making chainmail. Here's the one on wearing it. I'm a little bit out of breath. It's hard work. It feels horrible. Going to have to spend ages scrubbing my hands and my face and perhaps my hair. Chainmail, in this case spring steel, 8mm butted rings. It's certainly a lot better than nothing. It's horrible to wear. And I think that's it. Thanks for watching. I'm Mark. See you next time. Cheers.